and I think that is the case today, and members are expected to remain for the entire debate, please. I must also remind members participating virtually that they must leave their camera on for the duration of the debate, and that they will be visible at all times, both to each other and to us here in the Boothroyd room. If members attending virtually have any technical problems, they should email the Westminster Hall Clerks email address, which is westminsterhallclerks@parliament.uk. And members also attending physically, if they could still clean their places when they leave, and ensure that other honourable members can come into their place with a clean place. So we move on now to Antonia Artsy to move the motion.
That this House has considered e-petition 317336 related to cervical screening. Thank you, Mr. Pritchard. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship for this really important debate, and I apologise for not being able to be in person today, but thank the House for the hybrid proceedings following being pinged last week. But I would like to begin by putting on record my huge thanks to Caitlin, who is Fiona's sister, speaking to me last week about Fiona's case and the way it has affected the whole family. I would also like to thank Fiona's friends, Melissa MacDonald and Niamh Foley, who started this petition, and to all those who have signed it, leading to this debate being held today. As a woman, we all sort of dread getting the call up for our smear test. It's not painful for most, but it is uncomfortable and it's awkward. What do you even chat about when the nurse is having a little look? But what should it be? Why should it be like this? We've all been there. The nurse has seen it all before. It's just not spoken about. So we feel a sense of shame about it. And it's time we stopped being so coy about it, because it may well persuade more women to go for their screening and ultimately save lives. Cervical cancer is one of the most common cancers in women under 35. 99.7% of cervical cancers are caused by HPV. In recent years, testing for HPV has meant that it is easier to identify who is at greater risk from cervical cancer at the earliest stage. In COVID, England had an attendance rate of nearly 72%. That's over 1 in 4 women not going for screening when invited. The wonderful charity George Trust have a number of ideas to increase the uptake of smear tests, and I will suggest that the Minister meets them to discuss the ways of increasing the number of women getting tested. I know she does take a keen interest in women's health. And I was really moved when I spoke to Caitlin, because I got a real sense of how difficult it must be to lose a sister, especially at such a young age. Fiona was only 30 when she died, married to Matthew and a mother of 2 young children. Ivy was only 4 years old.
And firm approach. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, from today, our women are placed safely and legally through established routes. We will work with the charity Talent Beyond Boundaries and other partners on this.
There has been concern about the ability of undocumented migrants to get access to a vaccine, which of course is more benefit both to them, but also
continue to build upon. And this is in addition to our world-leading resettlement schemes. Providing greater support to refugees arriving safely will reduce the incentive to enter the country dangerously and illegally. Because it's right, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that when the British people object to illegal entry, they're right to make the case
to wider society, because we know the more people who have the vaccine, the less likely to transmit the virus. So that is clearly seems to be a bit of an element because of the fact that having quite an unstable existence is made even more challenging through COVID-19. Like many things, COVID-19 has made challenging situation more challenging. So I can very much understand the decision of 103,400 to sign the petition such as they have today. In terms of what is being called for, well, I mean, really, it is it is as simple as granting an amnesty to all undocumented migrants living in the UK, except those who have a criminal record. That the petition was quite clear that it doesn't believe if you have a criminal record, you should be the beneficiary of this amnesty. But I have to say there's not much more detail than that. So it's I assume that this petition, if it got what it wished, would essentially treat every undocumented migrant the same, whether there was someone who'd been living here for, say, over 10 years and had put down extensive family roots, or somebody who, quite frankly, arrived here last weekend on a dinghy from Calais. So I think that's something which the petition is sort of missing. There isn't that clarity with regards to, so I'm assuming it's essentially referring to every single undocumented migrant. I can only assume that. And of course, I would also assume that this is going to be a one-off amnesty for all undocumented migrants. But I'm unsure about whether the petitioners would wish there to be something that happens routinely. I don't know, every 5 years, every 10 years. That is also not clear. But what is clear is a desire to recognise the status for all undocumented migrants. That is very clear, and that is what we will be debating today. I mean, the arguments in favour, I think, are clear. I think there are many individuals and families who are undocumented migrants who have come here. Some may have come here illegally in the first instance, some may have come here legally in the first instance, but the legal time which they're allowed to be here has expired, and they're looking to regularise the position which they're in. So there's a combination of both of those. But there are many who are making a positive contribution to our country in difficult circumstances. And at the moment, it's a very challenging situation for them. There's also an argument about how actually by regularising their status, it leads to them paying more taxes, and that's beneficial to the taxpayer. So those are sort of some of the arguments that have been made. I, for one, can have some sympathy with the argument that says that actually we should treat you a bit different if you've been here for, say, 10 years or 12 years and you put down extensive family roots. I mean, is it really realistic? Is it really likely at that stage? But as a government, we are going to deport you. I think it's incredibly unlikely. And if we are already, that it's incredibly unlikely that we're ever going to deport you in those circumstances. And there does seem to be a pretty strong argument in relation to those individuals that we should regularise their status, and that perhaps an argument could be made for there being an amnesty. But in terms of the arguments against, in relation to this petition, I simply wouldn't be able to support a situation where we were treating a family who may have been here for over 10 years the same as somebody who, say, came here last weekend on a dinghy. We also cannot make assumptions about every single person who's in this category. I mean, the reality is that there will be some people who have come into this country illegally through that illegal route.
And also working with international partners to look at how we will fix it.
Amongst that, there will be some economic migrants. So ultimately, those individuals would likely be beneficiary of such a blanket move as is being suggested by this petition, and that is something that I don't think I could support. If we were to support what this petition is calling for, which is a blanket amnesty